Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Blue Chip Prospect. Today, we are going to take a look at the 2024 NHL Draft. We are not going to redraft it. We are just going to take a look at the different players that were taken in the first round and some players outside of that first round and look where they are and where they are heading. Are they going to become good players, or are they heading a little bit in the wrong directions? So that's basically the point of the video, and we are going to do that with many draft in the following videos. um yeah, just not redrafting, not because I think it's too early to redraft, because I don't really believe in that concept. I think you take the time to evaluate players before draft to actually create a ranking, and then a year after, if you look at the same player, you're just looking at the same player with more information, more stats, more stuff to look at, so you can know if he's on a good trajectory or not. Obviously, if you take a look at a draft 5 years out or 10 years out, then you have the exact answer at what you're looking for. You're not trying to project a player when you're 10 years out of the draft. You know what that player is. If you're looking at a draft 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years after the draft, then you're still trying to project that player in a lineup and what are his strengths and where he can play in an NHL lineup and stuff like that. But I don't believe in the too early thing. Like, you can always have a good idea, and yes, some players are gonna come from the seventh round and the sixth round, and at some point, 4 or 5 years later, they are going to jump. But I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to project stuff. But anyways, that is not the point of the video today. Today we are just looking at the players themselves. So if we start with the San Jose Shark with the first overall pick, obviously they went with Macklin Celebrini, and that's an easy win. It was an easy win at the time, and I think he's even better than what people expected out of him. Macklin Celebrini put 63 points in 70 games, including 25 goals. You can see that he's a future two-way center. He's not a guy that's going to be like a problem defensively. He's going to be good offensively and defensively. He's going to be a leader for the team. So I think that was a win. There's just no other way around it. Macklin Celebrini was the number one and should still be that number one player. If we go with number two with Artyom Levshunov, was a rough decision at the time for Chicago to either go with Demidov or go with Artyom Levshunov, and they decided to build that defensive backbone with a big right shot defenseman who can skate, can move the puck offensively, can defend when he's there to do so. So I think it's going well. He had good stats in the AHL last season, and when you talk about Levshunov, you're talking about a guy that was in Belarus 2 years ago, and then jumped to the USHL, and then jumped to the NCAA, and then jumped to the AHL, and then jumped to the NHL. So there's his path to the NHL was like super short. Like, he went from Belarus to NHL basically in 24 months or something like that, which is absolutely crazy. But he did well. The NHL, he looked a little bit rough, I would say, but in the AHL, he did very well. He had very good stats, not just the stats that you see here, but different stats like the puck battles won percentage, which is above 60%, and all kinds of stuff like that. So he did really well. I'm not sure if he's going to end up being a second overall type of player, but I think he's a good player nonetheless. So he's probably going to be a top 5 player in that draft, or at the very minimum, a top 10 player in that draft. Then there's Beckett Seneca. Not everybody believes in him. I still do believe in him. I think he didn't have the season we expected him. Like, he had 86 points in 56 game with 36 goals. Jeez, that was hard. 56. But like, the stats were not the best. Like, you would have liked to have a guy that did 90 something points, 100 something points. It didn't happen. But I think for me, it's really not that much of an issue. I think he's a guy that has that 70 points you know, type of ceiling in the NHL as a winger, a bit like Matt Boldy. I think he's the same type of player, very skillful, but can also play a little bit like a power forward if you need to. Yeah, just a very good player overall. So I think like maybe top 3 was a bit early, but at the same time, I think he's going to be good for them. Ken Lindstrom, very hard to say because he didn't play last season. And then he's going in the NCAA this season, so we'll see how it goes at Michigan State. But there's nothing to add, right? The guy played 32 games in his draft year, had 46 points, 27 goals, so basically almost a goal per game in his draft year, which was great. But outside of that, there's nothing to add. Like, 0 games last year. So played 4 games in the playoff, but that's about it. You cannot really base an opinion based on 4 games. Then there's Ivan Demidov for the Montreal Canadiens at number 5, which was a great pick. Nobody expected him to fall this much. and it did. Thank God. Uh, had a crazy season in the KHL, 49 points in 65 games, basically shattering the record for the most points for a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old or something like that. I don't remember what the record is. I don't really care about records. All I know is that I watched many of those 65 games, and he was an amazing player in the games that I've watched. Some games he was a little bit not that amazing, but still he was great in most games. And then he came to the NHL, and in his first game, he ended up with 2 points, crazy goal, crazy assist. And then in the playoff, it was a little bit rough at the beginning, but in the like his third or fourth game, he was doing pretty well, 2 points in a game. Um, like Demidov is a star in the making. I think he's going to end up as the number 2 player in that draft. I think it's not even close. I don't think there's a player that's close to Ivan Demidov in terms of potential, at least offensively. And he's a guy that's worked hard out. Like he's a hard worker on the ice, but he's also a hard worker in his practice. He's a guy that just wants to get better consistently. So I think he will be like in terms of production, I wouldn't be surprised if he has more production than Celebrini. I'm not saying it will happen. I say I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but I don't think he will have the same impact as Macklin Celebrini. Celebrini looks like a future like superstar, top 5 NHL centerman, but I could see Demidov being a top 10 player in the NHL. Really, no problem about that. And then there's TJ Ginla at number 6. And TJ Ginla did pretty well in a very not a big amount of games, 21 games, 32 points, 14 goals. You would have liked to have a little bit more. It's good production. It's not great production, but I think he's shown a lot what he can do in his draft year already. And that is not going to change. He's going to be an intense player. He's going to be a shooter. He's not the best playmaker, but he can play well along the board. He can go in the corners. He can forecheck. He can be heavy on the puck. That's his type of game, and he has skills on top of that. So he's going to be a very complete player that's going to be good defensively. He's going to do a little bit of everything. I think probably a player that's going to end up in the top 10 in a redraft like 10 years from now. So I'm even though he didn't play that much, I'm really not worried about that. Carter Yakemchuk, it's a guy that I had just outside of my top 10, but he was one of my favorites. It's just the risk about his skating for me that was the issue, and also like how he likes to take himself out of the play sometimes to try to lay a big hit, which was a little bit of a problem with me. But I think offensively, that guy's like the offense is sky high. The ceiling for this guy is sky high. He's so talented, so skilled. The vision is crazy. The shot is crazy. He's just bro. He's amazing. But anyway, last year, a little bit of a dip in his production, 49 points in 56 games. I think he kind of worked on his defense. Like, there is improvement on his defense. You can see it very clearly when you watch the games. I'm not sure if it's that much to justify the drop in points, but nonetheless, he's a defenseman. Some years he's going to put more points, some years he's going to put less points. It's not really the issue, but I think offensively in the NHL, at some point in his prime, he's going to be a very, very productive player, and also a physical player, and also maybe a player that can actually play on both sides of the puck if he keeps working on his defense. So that's good. Berkeley Catton, a guy that I had much higher than number 8. I think I had him number 3, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. I liked him very much, and I still like him very much. 109 points, 38 goals in 57 games. Just amazing production in the WHL. Was the captain for the the Chiefs. 42 points in 20 games in the playoffs. So you can know that even when the chips are down and it gets rough and tough, he can still make it happen. Absolutely no problem. I think he's a dynamic player. He's probably the best player in the Seattle's prospect pool. If then after that, Zane Perek at number 9. Zane Perek to me is another player that is very good offensively. The type of player, he's so good offensively that I wouldn't be surprised if he had the same type of season as, let's say, a Lane Hudson. I'm not saying that it's likely, because there's not many players who can have a season in his rookie year like Lane Hudson did. But I think if there's one player that has the skills and the smarts and just the offensive ability to create plays and create points for himself and for the players around him, if there's one player that can do that at Lane Hudson's level, it's going to be Zane Perek. It's very different in the way that he does it. I think he's also a more fluid skater, at least like a faster, more explosive skater, not necessarily the same type of east-west mobility, which is a little bit different. I think he creates his offense very differently, but in the end, put up 107 points, 33 goals in 61 games, back-to-back 33 goals in the OHL. So, I mean, just an amazing offensive defenseman, and he's not that bad of defensively. He's not necessarily the most physical guy, even though he does have a little bit more of a physical streak now than he used to have. But he's better defensively, and the offense is just off the chart. I think he's going to be so good. And then you have Anton Silayev. I didn't watch him all that much last season, so it's hard for me to say how good he was. Like, I saw maybe 2 games overall. I know the production is not that great, but it's often like that for defensemen in the KHL. But 12 points, 2 goals in 63 games, it's really not that great. Like, it's not really an upgrade. He went from 11 to 12, and I don't think anybody ever saw him as a massive offensive creator or something like that. It's not the games that he play. He's very raw offensively. Like, he's not a structured guy whatsoever. And even defensively, sometimes it's still a hit and miss. But he's so tall at 6'7", and the guy can skate so well. I think he's going to be a good shutdown defenseman at the NHL level with a solid first pass. But don't expect him to be a 40-point guy or something like that. I don't think it's going to happen at all. And then you have at number 11, Sam Dickinson. The guy had a crazy season in the OHL last year. 91 points, 21 goals in 55 games, including 31 points in 17 games in the playoffs. So he was amazing in the playoffs. He was amazing in the OHL. I know a lot of people are saying that, or was saying that his hockey IQ might be an issue, but he can rely on his athleticism to become an NHL defenseman. I think his hockey IQ took a step. I think he can make much better reads defensively and offensively. He's not forcing as many plays as he used to do. And the step that he took is just amazing. I think the fact that he was drafted at number 11 was crazy to me at the time, and it's still crazy to me. I think San Jose like hit the lottery with this guy. He's going to be a number 1 defenseman for them, and I strongly believe in that. So yeah, that's a good pick there. I think he's going to be a top 5 in a redraft in a couple of years from now. And then you have at number 12, you have Zeev Buyum, who had a very good season in the NCAA too. 48 points in 41 games. Played in playoff. Was a little bit rough. He had 1 point in 4 games, but it's not just that was rough. I think overall the game looked rough. I think the skating didn't look necessarily that great at the NHL level, which was surprising because I feel like it was very solid in the NCAA. But once he reached the NHL level, I feel like he wasn't moving his feet as much, and his speed wasn't all that there. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, you can't judge a player based on 4 games anyways in the playoff. Doesn't make sense. But in the NCAA, he was a very good defender, defensively and offensively. Put up 48 points, 13 goals in 41 games. So that's amazing. It's ridiculous production. But he was also relied upon to defend for Denver, and he was really good as a defenseman too, and put 6 points, 2 goals in 7 games at the WGC U20s. So really good there too. If we go to the next one, after Zeev Buyum, it was Jet Luchenko, a pick that at a time I thought was a bit high. Like, I didn't see Jet Luchenko that high, but he had very good U18, so I think that's one of the reasons why he took that big of a jump. But I had him like 31 or 32, so definitely not as high as them. 5'11", 190, so he's a little bit of a cube. He's heavy and he's large, but he's 5'11", and he's a very, very good skater. Like, his speed is amazing. Even in the NHL level, at the NHL level, he will be like in the top like 15% of something like that in the NHL in terms of speed. But sometimes you can be surprised, right? If you look at Joe Veleno looked like an amazing skater when you look at him in the QMJHL, and it turns out the guy is like in the 50th percentile, something like that in terms of speed. So sometimes you just don't know how it'll turn out. In terms of season, he had 56 points, 21 goals in 46 games. Not great, not bad either. The year before, he had 74 and 68, so it's not that much of a step forward. And I didn't necessarily expect that much of a step forward from him either. I think he's going to be a good player on two-way, but I think he's a middle 6 type of guy. I don't see him as a top 6. Maybe he can be your second line center. Maybe he can be like some type of Anthony Cirelli for you. That's not impossible, but I don't think he's the 60-point version of Anthony Cirelli. I think he can be an Anthony Cirelli, but the 40-something point version of him, and that would be still great. it would be even more than great. Anthony Cirelli is a great second line defenseman, centerman, but I don't think it's. I'm not sure if it's likely that he will reach that. That's the point. I don't think he's in the top 10 in a redraft in 5 years from now, but we'll see. And then at number 14, there was Consta Elenius for Buffalo. Another guy a little bit on the smaller side. The guy is a 5'11", 180 something pounds. So not a big guy, but in the AHL, he had 35 points and 14 goals in 65 games, which is fine. It's nothing crazy, but it's fine. In the WGC U20s, he put 6 points in 7 games. He put 0 goals, but I'm not too worried about his goal scoring ability. I think he has a hard shot, and I think that he gets to the area to actually release that shot. He plays in the middle of the ice. He's not necessarily a perimeter guy. So yeah, I'm not sure he's going to be like a big time producer at the NHL level, but like I said with Jet Luchenko, I think he has a little bit more offense than Jet Luchenko in his game, but he's not the same type of skater. So we'll see how it goes, but I can expect like something between 40 and 50 game in his prime in the NHL, still being a very respectable, productive player. Also going to be good defensively, so that's not bad. Pick at 14, anyways. After that, at 15, we had Michael Bransek Nygaard, a player that I liked, but I'm not sure if I like the offensive output projection for the NHL level, but a player that I really liked the style. He was very good on both sides of the ice, like very, very good. Probably one of the best defensive player in that draft. He was also a hard hitting, heavy player, heavy on the forecheck winger. I think that's going to be very useful at the NHL level. And he had a hell of a shot, especially in the bumper. He was really good to take position, jump into space, and release a one-timer or just a solid wrister from the bumper position. I think he's going to be very serviceable player in the NHL. He's going to be physical. He's going to forecheck heavy. He's gonna shoot heavy. He's going to do a lot of good things for Detroit. I'm not sure if that's the player that they actually need, but that's another story. It's a story for a different day. But that's like is the Detroit way. They're drafting the same type of player year after year, and they expect different results. So we'll see how it goes. In the SHL, he had 11 points, 5 goals in 42 games, which is really not that great. I would say. I don't like. We could search if it's good or not in the history of like draft plus one players, but we don't really have the time to do that in that video. But I wouldn't say it's not that great of a production, even though the SHL is a very tough league to crack as a young player. It's also a very tough league to play in. In terms of NHLE or NHL equivalency points and stuff like that, I think it's like the third. Like there's NHL, obviously, and then there's like SHL, AHL, or KHL, SHL, AHL, something like that. The points in the SHL are very tough to come by, and they are worth a lot in NHLE. That's what I was trying to say. So I think he's the type of player that's gonna stay in that type of range on this. Like here, he was taken in number 15, and I think he could like in a redraft in a couple years from now, he could be anywhere from like number 12 to number like 20 or something like that. But I think he's going to stay a first round guy. But he's gonna have to work a little bit on his skating and his speed and explosion. But he got a lot of the NHL hockey part. He's got it down to a T, so that's good. And then there's Adam Juracek. Right shot defenseman, was like 6'2", something like that. Played in the OHL, 12 points in 27 games, so really not that great. But he did look good though. At least the games that I've seen from him, he did look good. I cannot say that he looked bad on the ice, but he hasn't produced all that much for a draft plus one guy. I don't know how it's going to be in the future. He never looked like a solid like production player or anything like that, but still you expect a little bit more than that, I would say. So I'm not sure if he's gonna end up as a first round player in the future. We'll make a video about that like in the future, and we'll see if he is. But still, I think he's going to be an NHL defenseman. I just don't know to which extent. Is he a top four guy? Is he a third pair guy? That's more the question. He's definitely not a power play guy, but maybe like a penalty kill guy with third pair minutes or something like that. And then there's number 17, which was a little bit of a surprise. Tarek Parasak at number 17. Many people had him in a second round, even though he put up like 100 points or something like that. 6 foot, 181. In his draft year, 105 points, 43 goals, 68 games. And then 82 points in 59 games, including 28 goals. So a little bit of a step back. Um, Not too worried about that, but I never thought he was a player that deserved that level, like to be picked that high. I think it was a player more in the 20s for me. Um, Still, I think he's going to be a middle six type of player that can do it all. That can play defensively, can score goals, can make plays. Not the best skater out there, but he did take a step with his feet last season, so that's going to help him. At least it's going to help his NHL projection, that's for sure. But I just don't know exactly what's going to be his offensive output at the NHL level. But I think he's going to be a good player that can do a little bit of everything. Then we have Sasha Bovard, who had a great season last year in the NCAA, in his first season in the NCAA. 6'3", 190, so a big guy. Like he's gonna get heavier, and he already plays heavy. He already has a heavy shot, so he has a lot going for him. Put 32 points in 37 games, including 18 goals. It's good production. It's not something that's like out of this world. It's not like you look at that and you're not like he's a top six for sure. But he's a guy I think that can play in your middle six. He can be a center. He can be a winger. I think he ends up probably more as a winger, but at least with the styles that he play, I think it makes more sense to have him on the wing than have him on the center at the center position, especially if you want him to forecheck and be heavy and go get the puck in deep. He's going to be more useful on the wing for that. But nonetheless, you have a guy that can shoot the puck from the bumper, that can shoot the puck basically from anywhere and score. He has a heavy shot, can be physical, can fight, can do a little bit of everything, and he's big. So, I mean, that's a serviceable player. I put him basically in the same range as a guy like Michael Branson Nygaard. I think they have about the same potential. I don't think not necessarily that they will reach it at the same time, but I think they have the same type of potential in a NHL lineup. And then we have Trevor Connolly, who had a weird season. Didn't do all that well in the NCAA with 13 points in 23 games, which is not that great, but it was Providence College. And then he signed to go with with the Golden Knights, which I think like the problem with him, and I think it was very projectable that this was going to be a problem going forward, is that he's a very light player and he's not a strong player whatsoever. Like he's fast, he's skilled, he can shoot, he can make plays, he can do a lot of things, and he's a feisty player too. But he's very light and he's not strong whatsoever. He can be pushed very easily off the puck. You can get the puck from him very easily. I don't think he's ready for the AHL at all. I think he can put up points in the AHL because he does have that level of skills. I just don't know. I think it's gonna be a little tough for him. Like maybe he should have changed college. Maybe go to and stay in the NCAA, change college. But the AHL might be a little bit rough for him, especially if he didn't take any weight this summer or something like that. But I do believe in the offensive abilities. I think that he's a guy that he could easily be a top 10 pick 5 years from now. But if he actually can reach like 190 pounds and he's like 6'1" or something like that, so if he can be 6'1", 190, and can like work his game along the board, but still do the things that he can do at a high level, I think can be one hell of a player. It's just some players just can never get there. Some players cannot just put the weight. So if he can't, it's gonna be a problem. And then there's Cole Eiserman, who basically has been Cole Eiserman. He did nothing different last year than he did the 2 years before that, and I think that was exactly the reason why he dropped in his draft year. Like people thought they were expecting different element to his game to show up at some point, like a better playmaking touch, a better touch along the board, or like forechecking or anything really. Just like I think he added a little bit of physicality in his game. In his draft year was more physical than the year prior, but and even last year in the NCAA, I think he was still a little bit more physical than he was even the year prior. So he does have that in his game, but he's an okay skater. He's not a great playmaker, doesn't have great vision, doesn't like he has good hands and a fantastic shot. It's just you're gonna need somebody to feed him. You're gonna need somebody who can open space for him. Like he can find space, he can jump in it, he can shoot the puck, and if he shoots the puck in space, he will score. That's the way his game is. But he will need somebody who can attract player and make them move out of position so he can jump into that space. He's not the guy who's gonna create it all himself. That's not his game. He doesn't have that like hockey sense. His hockey sense is like find space, go in it, shoot the puck. That's what he can do, and that's what he will be doing for the rest of his career. I think he will do it at a high level. I just don't know how like how much do you need that? Maybe he gets better. Like Caulfield, uh, as an example, as a shooter, right? A guy who was primarily a shooter in his NCAA days and his first few seasons in the NHL is a guy that keeps improving. And now, even though his defense is never going to be his strength, his defense is now serviceable, and he can also make plays. He's a good has good distribution skills, or at least connecting skills, and he's not moved off the puck as easily as he used to be. So I think if he can actually improve on different skills and listen to his coach and be coachable, basically, I think he can get a few elements in his game that's going to help him. But if he doesn't, he's going to be a pure shooter that is not like feisty or intense or anything like that. That can't really make plays. That can't really create space. That can't really battle along the board and win his battles. That can't really have speed. Can't transition the puck. He doesn't do much. So, but there's a chance that he's a big time scorer. So there's that. So I don't know. For him, I have no clue where he's going to end up. He could end up in the top 10, just like he could end up all the way down to second round or something like that. After that, we have Michael Hage taken from the Montreal Canadiens at 21. A guy that had a good season. I think he's showing that he's willing to work on some habits that he has. I'm not sure he's a center. I think a lot of people are not sure that he's going to be a center. He plays a little bit more like a wing, but supposedly that now he's uh, at least from what I've seen, I never saw him where he was really intense on the puck and back checking hard and going deep in his zone, trying to help the defense and then trying to reconnect the breakout and get the puck out the zone and then just do what a center does at the NHL level with intensity. And in the games that I've seen, I never saw him do that all that much. And I've watched 20 games out of the 30 something that he played. So um, maybe I just didn't watch the right one. But I think he can be a good winger. I think he can be a top six winger as a center. I'm not sure he's a top six center, but we will see. He has skills, he has speed, he has this move where he drops his shoulders and goes to the inside. Will it work at the NHL level? That's a whole different ball game. But at least he tries to be more intense. This year is going to be telling about where he's going to be. I'm just a bit like Cole Eiserman. I'm not sure, not for the same reason. I'm just not sure exactly where he's going to be. Is he a bottom six? Not a bottom six, but is he like a third line player, or is he actually a top six player? Production is one thing. I think production was good with 34 points in 33 games, but that's just numbers. If you look at the game itself, that's where you're trying to put him in a lineup and see where does he fit in a lineup. What can he do to help the team? And that's where it gets a little bit more murky. So I think he does have that middle six potential, even top six potential. I'm just not sure if it's down the middle on the wing or if he can actually reach that top six or just be like a middle six player. We'll see. This year, like I said, will be very telling for his future and if he can actually drive the offense on a team that should be pretty good. So after that, I have Yegor Surin, who was one of my favorite in that draft. A very intense player, very physical player that has a big shot, could skate well, did a lot of good things in his draft here. If we look at the points in the MHL, he played what? Yeah, okay, exactly. Because I saw him in the KHL. I didn't see him in the MHL. That's why I was like, what? But 17 points in 12 games to be expected. He was already a point per game or something like that the year before. So 52 and 42 in his draft year. So obviously in the MHL, he was going to be above a point per game. And then 14 points in 41 games in the KHL. And he looked good many, many times in the KHL. I saw about I would say somewhere between 6, 7, 8 games that I saw from him, and he looked great. And he was the same guy. His he didn't change his game for the KHL. He's the same north south guy that does have skills with his hands, does have a big shot, very intense, very physical, just a fun guy to watch, and not just like a physical beast, but a guy that does have skills too. I'm very excited to see what he's going to be in the NHL. He's probably a middle six player. I don't think he has, or like a complementary, maybe top six, a bit like Michael Hage. But I'm not sure he's really a top six. I think he's going to be a very serviceable player in the NHL for Nashville. I think they're gonna love him over there. Probably become like a fan favorite because going to be able to put some offense on the board and at the same time like crush people. So yeah, I think he's going to be a player that's going to stay in the first round for sure. He's just too entertaining. Steven Solberg, probably a player that's going to go up at some point. When you look at the draft back like 5 years or 6 years from now, I think Steven Solberg is one of those guys that's going to be higher than where he was taken. He was taken at number 23, and he did pretty well in the SHL with 12 points in 47 games. And for him, it's just like the skating, the physicality, the defense, it's all high end. Like he's a very, very good skater. He's very physical and he's very good defensively. Every time that I talk about him, I talk about the same player, and I think he's Caden Gooley to a T. Basically, I think he's the same type of top four player in the making. A guy that can skate really well, that can join the rush when he needs to, but it's not his first instinct is not necessarily to create offense, but it's to move the puck out of his zone, join the rush if it's available, and if not, just protect his blue line or protect like the neutral zone. He's a guy that's going to be physical, that's going to skate really well, but can move the puck. Um, just a great defenseman. I think he's going to be really good. We'll see in a couple of years from now. I'd like to see him like keep improving his game overall with the puck on his stick, but yeah, I like him. Then Cole Baudouin at number 24. I think he's going to be a good player for Utah. I don't think like the thing is that at that point you gotta when you're that deep in the draft, I think maybe you choose players that you can see in your own lineup, and having another big physical center to go in your lineup that can play on the penalty kill, that can be physical, that can, do all the big things that Cole Baudouin does when you saw him when you watch him internationally or even in the OHL. It's very clear what he can do. He's a limited guy with the puck. He's a limited guy offensively. He's never going to be that big point producer. He's going to be like a third line, even maybe fourth line player. Like, I don't know. It could be one or the other, but one way or another, he's going to be a big piece of that team because he's going to be important on the penalty kill, and he's going to be the guy that's going to shut down the best line on the other side. At least if that's the way they coach it. Like obviously they could do best on best. I don't know, but he's the type of guy that you can do that, or you can place him against the best line the other side when you're actually like when you have like a point or two over the other team. So I don't know. I think he's good. I think it's a bit high. He's probably going to be a little bit like more in the second round in a redraft in a couple years from now, but still going to be a serviceable player. Then there's Dean Letourneau. This one is complicated. It's all about projection. Um, He's 6'7", 200 something pounds. Season was terrible last year. 3 points in 36 games. He didn't play all that much. He was not like an important player for Boston College, but I even saw him live and he was terrible live. I saw him on video and he was terrible on video. There's nothing that he did that looked nice. Like, didn't necessarily make great reads, couldn't skate really well, couldn't handle the puck at all. Like receiving a pass was hard. He can't really shoot all that much, can't make plays, can't defend. Even physicality, I saw like small player rock him. So like very small, like 5'10" player rock the guy 6'7". So I don't know. There's a big step that needs to be taken for him to be an NHL player. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying the timeline is going to be longer. I think it was always supposed to be long. It might be longer than long. That's what I'm saying. Nothing it's impossible as an NHL player. It's just right now he looks very far from being an NHL player. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, Dean Letourneau. I don't think he's going to be a first round in a redraft. That's for sure. Then Liam Greentree. Amazing. I think he dropped a little bit because he didn't have all that good of a U18. Didn't play much. Was scratched like one game or two or something like that, if I remember well. Like he had some points, but he didn't play all the games or something like that. Or he played like very, very few minutes in the last few games. So probably dropped a little bit from there, and also because he's a big guy, but the feet weren't all that great, and they're still not all that great. He's not a fast skater or an explosive skater, but the guy is extremely smart. He's physical, not super physical, but he's physical enough. He's big. He can make plays. He's very smart. He has great hands. He has a great shot. Basically, 49 goals in 64 games, 119 points for the Spitfires, and he's the captain. In the playoff, he had 24 points, 14 goals in 11 games. I mean, what do you want more from a guy that's a 26th overall pick? Like he's fantastic. I wish that was the pick the Habs did. I wish it was Liam Greentree, but it is not the case. But I think he's a player that's going to be a top 15 when we redo this draft in a couple years from now. I think he's too talented and too smart to not be a productive player at the NHL level. Maybe he could be some type of like Gabe Villardi. Like Gabe Villardi is not a great skater. He was not in his draft year. He took a little bit of a step for sure. And every players from their draft year to when they reach the NHL, they do take a little bit of a step. So that's okay. You expect that. But Liam Greentree is, I can see him like that a little bit. A guy that can play a little bit physically, that can score, that can make plays. It's not going to be a fast player, but it's going to be a very, very serviceable player and top six player at the NHL level. And then you have Marek Vanacker by Chicago, who I heard looked pretty good in the rookie tournament in Chicago, or at least in Minnesota, where Chicago was playing. I was never a big fan of him, even in the OHL. I think he wasn't all that great in his draft year, and I think he was not all that great last year. He finished with 42 points in 45 games. I think he's an intense player. I think he's a bottom six player, though. I don't think he's a top six player at all. It's not impossible, but I don't think he is at all, at least not as a driver. But I think he can be a very, very good bottom six player that can be very intense, play fast, can bring some offense on your third line. Like you don't need to have all your offense in your top six. Sometimes you need your third line to be a productive line too. And the more you have lines that can put points on the board, the better your team will be, the deeper they are. And I think that Marek Vanacker is that type of player. He's going to be a player that's going to play on your third line, that's going to be intense, but can also put points on the board, which is going to help the team. If we go to the next one, after Vanacker, it's Matvey Gridin. Not one of my favorite, but I think he's good enough. I think he has a chance to play in the NHL. 6'1", 190, 79 points in 56 games in the QMJHL for Shawinigan this year. I don't like the pace. I don't like the pace at which he plays, and it's not just like the skating. The skating, like it's, I wouldn't say it's not NHL level, but it could get there. I think the issue is really more about how fast he thinks the game and how fast he executes the plays. Like there's always that extra second that he's going to keep the puck on his stick, and then sometimes the lanes will close and the lanes to shoot or to pass they just close because the defenseman close it. And at the NHL level, it's like even faster. If you don't make a play in the fraction of a second that it's open, then that play is dead. And that's what Matvey Gridin has some problem with, is actually executing at the right speed. And the higher the levels he's going to play, the harder it's going to get. So I have a problem seeing his projection. Yes, he had some good production, but good production in QMJHL and good production in the NHL are two very different things. So I'm not sure he's going to be a first round in a few years from now, but I could be wrong. After that, Emil Hemming went to the OHL. He did, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm not crazy. 48 points in 68 games. Probably not the start that you want from that guy. 15 points in 16 playoff games, so that's not too bad. At the U20, 4.7 games. So, like, production outside of the OHL was not so bad, but 48 and 60 is rough for a first round player. A guy that was basically everybody talked about Emil Hemming, about the guy who can shoot the puck and score, and he didn't do that all that much. 18 goals in 60 games in the OHL. It's not exactly what I would call very productive. When I watched him, I think he was very like erased from the game. He didn't look like all that involved in plays and involved in the game, not defensively, not offensively, not physically. Like he was there. You could see him sometimes. Sometimes he popped up with a shot or something like that, but he didn't stand out in any way in the games that I've seen. So, meh. After that, you have E.G. Emery, a pick that I would have never taken at that spot, but I understand why they did it. He's a big guy who skates well, a very good athlete. But then he goes to North Dakota, 1 point in 31 games. And I think it was a little bit to be expected. That's the type of player he is. He had 6 points in 27 USHL games, so I don't know. Like, you can't expect the guy to become productive. He can barely move the puck out of his zone if he's not skating it out. Like, yes, he can skate it out because he's a good athlete. He can do it at the NCAA level, but even his pass on the breakout, they're probably like 50-50. Like, he's not necessarily an accurate passer. He's not necessarily all that good to create separation also from the forecheck to actually make that pass. Um, I think he defends well. I think he's physical. I think he skates well. I don't know. I think at best he's a third pair defenseman, and I think it's a bit rough to go get yourself a third pair defenseman in the first round. Like, anyway, they can do whatever they want, and it's New York, so I don't care. After that, Ben Danford is a guy that I like, probably more than most people. I had him last year, like when I did a top 16 um, prospect defenseman in the NHL. I'm not sure if I had him in my top 16 or just like as an honorable mention. He's not a big point guy, but he's a physical guy, skates really, really well. And you can see here 25 points in 61 games as a first round NHL draft defenseman. Like, the points, they don't look good at all. Like, they're not indicative of an NHL player, like, whatsoever. But I promise that he's better than the points. Like, he moves the puck much better than what you can see on the stat sheet. He's not a play creator. He's not a guy that's going to open space or move east west on the blue line and create lanes and send the puck cross ice for a one timer. That's not what he's going to be. He's a guy that can transition the puck. He's a guy that can defend really well, that can hit player, that can clear his net. He's a guy that can retrieve pucks and then make that first pass accurately. He's a guy that's going to be serviceable on probably a third pair or anchor a pair with a highly capable defenseman offensively. But the 25 point, like, you look at that and you tell yourself this guy is not an NHL player. But I promise he's better than that. At least in my opinion. I might be very wrong in the end, but I feel like he looks much better than what the stat sheet is showing. I prefer him much more than E.J. Emery, that's for sure. And then Sam O'Reilly, who was traded to Tampa in exchange for Isaac Howard. 71 points, 62 games, 28 goals for the London Knights. I mean, any player that's playing for London, I say that all the time. When a player plays for London, I'm willing to take the bet on him because I feel like they have such a good development team over there, good development coaching, that every player gets better. And there was a pretty good jump, 56 points to 71 points in less games. It's to be expected, obviously, because the guy grew, the guy is older, so probably his role is also much more enhanced in his second year. But he's still not going to be like a productive player at the NHL level. He's going to be like a physical player that can play well defensively, that can, a serviceable player, just not something that you would hope is dynamic or anything like that. And then if you look at other players that did really well that are outside of the first round, obviously players like Igor Chernyshov, that's a guy that's going to jump into that like top 16 or something like that, maybe even higher than that. 6'3", 200 pounds, skates pretty well, plays with pace. The guy put 55 points in 23 games in the OHL, playing with Misa on the power play, and then in the playoff, 6 points in 5 games where they got destroyed, -12, and same thing for Misa, had terrible playoffs. It was very rough for them. I think Chernyshov is going to be good. He had a great season, and he developed that playmaking, passing and playmaking element in his game that he didn't really have in his draft season. He was more of a finisher, more of a transition guy, could skate with the puck, have nice hands, could cut to the middle and take a shot and score. And now, like, you can see his passing game is many, many levels what it was in his draft year. I think he's going to jump in the top 16. He's a very good player. The Dominic Bedinka, another player that I think was like very good to be drafted over there. 6'3". I thought he was a little bit taller than that. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, 5 points in 49 games. I think he's going to be a beast of a shutdown defenseman. I'm not sure he's that much of a like point producer in the NHL. Obviously, he won't be. Like, if you have 5 points in 49 games, you're probably not going to be a big time point producer, but that guy can pass the puck. He can skate the puck. He can defend really well. He can be physical. I think like Dominic Bedin, I have much more hope for Dominic Bedinka than I have for E.G. Emery. For a similar type of player, Charlie Illick. I didn't actually check what was his production this season. It's a defenseman that I like, but I knew, at the same time, I knew his production was going to be very mid. And then, ooh, okay. So in 66 games, basically, he finished with 15 points. That's not that's not really good. Um, like even in his draft year here, he had 27 and 65. Obviously, nobody drafted Charlie Illick for his offense. There was never any offense in his game, but you would expect a little bit more than that anyway. But he's a physical and he's very good skater for his size. Not just for his size, just a very good skater altogether. And he's like 6'4". Outside of that, Julius Messina, a player that I think did pretty well this season too. Adam Kleber too. Um, Finished with 39 and 36, so not a big point producer, but I liked him in his draft year, and I like him even more last year. Kleber did really well too. Cole Hudson obviously is a guy that's going to be in that first round for sure. 48 points in 39 games, basically the exact same production as his brother, if I'm not mistaken. I say that every single time I talk about him. I think he doesn't have the same handling skills and the same like vision as his brother. Probably not even the same smart as his brother, but he's a more dynamic skater. Like even though Lane Hudson can get pretty quick, he's not necessarily the most explosive skater. And sometimes when he do his steppy steps, he can get catched by the player on who he's trying to do those steppy steps. His brother is harder to catch because he's just more explosive with his feet, has a better shot. More physical defensively, but at the NHL level, I'm not sure it really matters when you're 5'11". If you're physical, it doesn't matter. It kind of cancels itself out. So yeah, there's good players there. Harrison Brunicky, I think he's going to be an NHL player. Maybe he has a chance to be even a top 4 NHL players. Max Plant, very good season in the NCAA last year. If you look at it, he had 28 points in 23 games for Minnesota Duluth. So very good season for him. Like that's better than Sacha Boivin. It's better than Michael Hage. I mean, in terms of points, so that's really good. Colin Raft, they're pretty good. Artemonov, obviously Carolina, they're pretty good at drafting. The guy ended up with 39 points in 63 games, which is step up over his 23 and 54 the year before. So, like every year, he's better and better and better. His game is not a dynamic game, but he's still a pretty good playmaker. He's a decent finisher. He's a decent skater. He plays with intensity. He's a smart player. I'm not like I don't see him as a 60-point player in the NHL. I think he's more of a middle six player than a top six player. But he's a player that's going to move up that ranking for sure because 50th was low at the time and it's even lower now. Teddy Stiga did pretty well. Bernard, no. Nathan Villeneuve, no. Who's the other guy that I really like? I think it was an interesting. AG Spellis, he doesn't put a lot of points on the board, but he's a player that I like. I think he's physical, he skates well, he's big. Oh, Ilias Protas. That's a big one. Ilya Protas is a guy that's first, he's very big, and his brother is very good, and he has put 124 points in 61 games and 50 goals in the OHL for the Windsor Spitfire. So you can see the production. Like, it's crazy. Washington is going to end up with 2 Protas and probably 2 very good NHL with their 2 Protas. Taryn Smith, a defenseman that's much more offensively inclined, did pretty well in the WHL last season. There's all kinds of players in there. There's also a player that I really like in the 6th round, I think. Where is there's Kieran. Yeah, Kieran Walton, another player that did really well. 6'6", 212 pounds, 92 points in 66 games, 38 goals for the Sudbury Wolves. So a player that did really, really well in his draft +1. There's still definitely a step that he needs to take in his skating. But I think he's at least he's much better now than he was in his draft season. And it's funny because he played in the rookie showdown in Montreal and he got rocked by Owen Protz. Owen Protz is like 6'1", 6'2" maybe, and Kieran is 6'6", and he got rocked the hell out. So that was funny. But anyways, so yeah, basically, I think there's a lot of players that are on a good way to become NHL players. It was a good draft. Basically, when you look at that draft, it was a very good draft. I think when we come back to it in 5 years or 10 years, it's going to be a lot of stars and a lot of very good players from that draft. Probably over average, in my opinion. So that is it for today. That was the 24-24 NHL entry draft recap. It's not a redraft. We're going to do this with many other drafts and try to look at different players and see their projection and see how it goes. All right. Take the time to like and subscribe if you like what I did. Press that hype button if you're on mobile. It's going to push my videos to more people. And thanks. See you in the next one. Peace.